Howdy folks, this is Baba Project Shiva Kalidasa with you again. We're going to be talking about Cobra breathing. Uh, there are many people who desire to find the fountain of youth, and it's been available all the time. Most people tend to age more over the years than others because of the way that they breathe or the quality of the air that they're breathing sometimes. But if you can do just this basic breath work that was given to us by the Naga so many thousands of years ago, then you will be able to regenerate a great deal of what you've lost and gain a great deal more power to use in your spiritual work. So basically there are a couple of different parts of the breathwork process. Number one, when you are breathing for ritual work and other things, then it's good to do what's known as shamanic breathing, which is where you breathe in for whatever count you will. You can use about anything you want to as a time to count by, with the exception of your heartbeat, because as you breathe in and you breathe out, one time your heartbeat is faster, and then as you're breathing out it's slower, and so it's best to not use your heartbeat because it's erratic, it's not regular. So I take a particular count where I'll do like 1001, 1002, 1003, whatever, and I'll breathe in for whatever count that I get as I do so, and then I hold it for half that count, and I'm breathing in through my nose, by the way. I breathe in through my nose, I hold for half the count, and I breathe out through my mouth. And that is shamanic breathing. And then after you've breathed out, you hold for half your count and breathe in again through your nose. And you just do that over and over again. And this is pretty much the process that we do in any of our breath work, whether it's really high-end stuff like you get with Kali Naga Shamanic Power, or this that virtually anyone can do without an initiation or anything of that nature. And so as we go through the process, I'm going to show you the Cobra breath as we do this, then you may notice that there will be some changes along the way. For example, I breathe in one time, let's say I breathe in for 8 counts, and I hold for half that, and then I'm breathing out again for 8 counts and holding for half that. Well, when I breathe in again, eventually it's going to get to where, say, I will breathe in for 9 counts. And so you hold for at least half the count. So I breathe in for 9, then I hold for 5 counts, and then I breathe out again for 9, hold for another 5 counts, breathe in again, and eventually it gets up to 10 counts. Because as you do this, you'll feel your lungs kind of expanding and stuff. And we'll go into how all of this is supposed to move and whatnot here pretty soon too. But so I get in and I get up to 10 counts, and I'm already holding for 5. That's fine. So I breathe in for 10, hold for 5, breathe out for 10, hold for 5, get up for 11, and then I hold for 6, and so forth. And so as we go through this process, and as things kind of expand and such, to simply be aware of what you're doing. It's good to be conscious of everything that's going on around you, being aware anyway. And certainly having more oxygen in your system is going to help. Well, this does a couple of different things for you in the process of this type of breathing. It also stirs up a lot of the what's known as malair or dead air or bad air that's locked up in different places in your lungs where you don't get the full expansion that maybe you should from bad breathing habits. And so at the end of it, then you do 4 cleansing breaths. And in the cleansing breath, you breathe in for whatever count that you will, you hold for half, and then you blow out forcefully 4 times until it's just gotten the last little bit of air out. And then you immediately breathe in for your full count, hold for half, and do the four puffs again. So just to give you a couple of different shots of this, okay, the shamanic breathing, when I'm doing it, or the cleansing breaths or anything else, I'm going to want to have good movement in my abdomen and in my chest. And so as I'm breathing in, then I let my belly come out and my chest would come up and my belly would come in just a hair to kind of get a little bit more up in my chest. And you get all this movement. And when you begin, and then as you're breathing out, then you're going back and getting it all collapsed again. But when you're doing this initially, it might be a good thing, and you just put your hands on your belly and your chest and actually feel the movement, because you need to know that you're actually getting this, because if you don't have that movement, then you're not accomplishing a whole lot. In Western society, especially those of us who've been in the military and things of that nature, they teach you to stand, real stiff and straight, and your head back, and your gut pulled in, and not allowed to move, and all your breathing is going on up here. That's really bad for you. So, if you've been in a situation where you've been taught to stand and breathe that way and to look right for business and all this sort of stuff, then you're going to have to unlearn some bad habits. And so, having your hands there and feeling all that movement and stuff is a good thing. Right now, I'm sitting with my back right up against the cushion behind me, and when we're doing this, I'm going to be sitting forward a little bit so that my torso can move, because as this comes from the naga, then it's going to, they're going to have a hand in this, and occasionally there'll be a little bit of movement in my spine or in my head and all that stuff. There'll be a lot of movement in my head as we go through the process that we'll explain here shortly. So first, I just want to show you shamanic breathing, and then also the cleansing breath, so that you'll understand what I'm talking about. So I'm just going to put my hands here so that you can see the movement. So that was 2 shamanic breaths. Now I'll do the cleansing breath so that you can see what the difference is. Some of my apprentices have been working with various attunements and stuff where we talk about these things, and have had a little bit of a hard time understanding it, which is the main reason for doing this video, even though it's going to help a lot of other people who see it as well. So here are the cleansing breaths. So that's 2 cleansing breaths. Very simple, easy to do, but because of the way it's done, the way it works, is it cleans all that bad air out of your lungs. It's been stirred up by the breathwork process. Cobra breathing does several different things. For instance, right now we're having probably, from what people are saying, the worst pollen season in the spring in the northeastern part of the United States that's been in recorded history at this point. The amount of pollen is extreme. Right now they're rating it at 20%, which means that 20% of the air that we breathe has pollen in it. That it is pollen, so it's floating around the air. Can't get away from it. It causes sinus problems for me and for others. And so in the process of doing this breath work, I'm getting a lot more oxygen in, I'm getting a lot of stuff cleaned out, and I'm also helping to keep my sinuses working properly. Now, I coughed a little bit ago, so you're getting the real world deal here. This is not a a make-believe thing where we go through and we take all of these different showings of it and then piece it all together. I may cough in the process of this. I have a cup of tea here to kind of help clear my throat from time to time. I'll take a drink from time to time. You do have breaks in this process, so feel free to do that yourself. The way the Cobra breathing works is, first of all, we do some things about the way we sit. So, if you want to simply generate a lot of energy and be more flexible, then you might do something like full lotus. But when it comes to healing, which with the allergy problems I'm having right now, something that I need, then we use a half lotus. And so for a half lotus, basically I'm pulling one foot in close, putting the other foot up on my leg, and since I'm putting my left leg, which deals with the right side of the brain, which is the feminine process of the body, then I want to balance that, and so I'll put my right hand on top of my left hand and sit, and so the right hand is dealing with the left side of the brain. And so in one case the feminine quality is the dominant, and in the other the masculine quality is the dominant, and this puts everything in balance. It balances all the energy of the body. Everyone has both masculine and feminine energy in them. Not real big on being politically correct and stuff, so if you hear me referring to things like sexual energies, I'm not going to call it gender. Gender is about literature. You have masculine, feminine, and neuter gender in literature. Taught anatomy for many years for naturopaths and massage therapists and folks of that nature. Occasionally had an enlightened MD who would come to the classes to learn a whole lot more about just a little bit that they got in medical school. And we would always talk about the masculine and the feminine sex, because that's the way it is anatomically. This offends you, feel free to turn it off right now, because the politically correct thing will not happen here on these videos. So, this is all about balancing the sexual energies in your body. And if you're confused about that, if you're wondering what sex you are, look in your pants, you'll figure it out. So, you have masculine energy, which is a big part of your ability to do things, and it has more of a passive nature and stuff. But the passion and stuff comes from the feminine energy, and this is what motivates you to do things. And so you want to have all of that in balance. So be aware of how you sit. If you're doing the full lotus, put your hands anywhere you want to. It's just fine. If you're doing half lotus, then find the way that feels best to you. If it feels best with your right foot on top or your left foot on top, that's okay. It may change from day to day according to what your body needs. But whatever one is, then balance it with the other. So, in doing this, then we're also going to be having some movement in our head. And see, just a moment here. We have some movement in our head and in our spine and stuff. So in doing this, I'll sit forward a little bit from the cushion, be a little bit more upright and stuff. And the process of movement is that we begin with the chin being down on the chest. And the reason for this is we're mimicking the movement of a cobra as it's rising up to attention and checking out its prey and preparing to strike. And so the process then is, in mimicking that, is we're breathing in through our nose. We're still doing the shamanic breathing of a different sort. We're breathing in through our nose, bringing the head back as far as we can. And then, as we go to release that breath, we hold, we do it for whatever count we do. We hold for half the count again. It's still the same thing as the shamanic breathing. And having done so, then we put our teeth together and we hiss like a snake as we breathe out. Now, in doing so, the hissing, number one, mimics the sound of the cobra. Number two, it adds a little pressure that helps really stir up things in the lungs. And the pressure does two things. Number one, it pushes oxygen into the blood. And number two, it helps stir up all of that bad air in there. in the cobra breathing, also, we will allow, as the body feels the urge to do, which it will, some movement in the spine. The number of years ago, about 20 years ago, I guess, the American Chiropractic Association decided to do a little experiment. And they got this homeless guy and they paid him some money to receive an injection in the base of his spine and then ride this stationary bicycle while they had this screen that showed everyone at this convention the movement of some radioactive dye up through his spine and back. Now, essentially they poisoned the guy, but he was homeless, he wanted the money, and was willing to do it, so they did it. Well, what it showed is that as he was pedaling and stuff, his spine had this movement kind of side to side, and of course he was breathing, and especially getting where he was tired and breathing harder and stuff. Then there was some forward movement and stuff, and it rotated all of the cerebral spinal fluid, which this dye showed, up into the brain, around in the brain, and back down again, and eventually it equaled out all the color and stuff, and you could see the energy also going out into the body. And that is, the radioactive dye isn't healthy, but getting that movement in your spine is extremely healthy. And you can have people who are crippled in the sense that they can't use their legs, and they can sit somewhere and do this and get a great benefit from it, not only from the oxygen, but from the movement of energy out from the spine. And this helps keep the spine supple and to keep the body more limber and all this sort of stuff, and does provide a degree of exercise overall. So we'll have those two processes, the movement of the head, the hissing and down and stuff, and then the movement of the spine side to side. Well, while you're doing this, you want to visualize a couple of different things. Number one, as you're breathing in and coming back, and you want to see ice from the head. You hear about the cold, logical, masculine energy that's all in the head. Okay, you want that be like ice, like a big chunk of ice going down the spine and landing in hot lava in that feminine seat of power. At the base of the spine is a bone called the sacrum. Now, when we do the Mahakali mudra, then we put our hands together, and we'll have it down here towards the pelvis, and so it's just making this V. Well, that represents the sacrum and that energy, and what it does is that on the base of the sacrum, on the front, there's a little bitty gland known as the Kunda gland. And this is where Kundalini energy comes from. And this is the gift that the Naga gave us when they mated with the apes that made humans come into being. So, as that energy comes out and you're doing this process, you'll feel the rise of Kundalini energy. And you might not feel it immediately, but if you keep doing this process, you'll get a good and balanced flow of Kundalini energy if you'll do this every day. So, you see this ice going down and hits the lava, and then fire, as you're breathing out, fire comes back up and swirls around in your head. Now, 5,000 years ago, in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali wrote about many things, but two of the things that he wrote about was the path of the mother and the path of the sages. The path of the mother is the most rapid feminine energy process, where when you're meditating, you're sending energy up the spine and to the third eye. And it opens up a lot of things for people psychically and helps with lots of things as far as your magical and spiritual capabilities. The path of the sages is the most rapid masculine energy process as far as enlightenment. And so when you're breathing out, it's coming straight up the spine and out the crown. The nice thing with the Cobra breathing is that as we go through the process, the energy is coming up and it's hitting both of these places. So the fire comes up, it rolls around in the brain, we breathe in again after we've held the breath out, and we take the ice back down and mix it with the fire and bring it back up as fire. And this eventually balances our energy and brings out the Kundalini awakening that so many people desire in this life because of the great things it does for them. Now, also, the interesting thing is when you have a Kundalini awakening, that basically means that the energy is coming up and out. Self-realization comes, which is what you're really after. People get stuck on the Kundalini awakening part, but what you really need is self-realization, and that's where the energy is coming up and going back down and coming back up again and going back down. And the Cobra breathing helps bring that about. As we do the Cobra breathing, then one of the things that we do is we do it 7 times, and we wait for about a minute, do it 7 more times, wait another minute, do it another 7 times, and we're finished. We do 4 cleansing breaths after that. 4 and 7 are sacred numbers, and 4 times 7 is 28, which numerologically breaks down to a 10 or a 1, which is a number of perfection. So numerologically there's an issue that's going on here too. So I'm going to take another drink to kind of clear my throat a little bit, and then I'm going to go through this process. I encourage you to watch this video a few times and do the breath work with me, but only do it once per day. And that's all you need. You don't need to be straining your lungs or anything like that. If you're not used to breath work, then it can, if you do too much of it, it can hurt you. It can stretch and bruise the intercostal muscles that are in between your ribs. And if that happens, then every time you breathe in and out, it's going to hurt until it heals. And because of the continuous movement, it can take a good 6 or 8 weeks to heal. And by that time, you may have forgotten about breath work and not want to take it up again. But it's only to do it once per day. And then if you're doing other things like the Kali Naga Shamanic power and stuff, this is a great way to start, and then do the Kali Naga Shamanic power after that, which is a more intense breathwork process, but the initiation that you go through and the energy that you receive from it makes it a whole lot easier to do and take. So, I'm going to shed the glasses here. All right, so we're just going to go through the process. watch the first time so that you understand what's going on, and then watch it again and actually do the breath work yourself. So that's one set. And there are a couple of other things to mention while we're waiting to do the next set, kind of allowing all of this to relax and rest a little bit. One is I'm doing it clothed so that we can put it on YouTube so that more people can see it. Normally we do this nude. I've got a fair bit of sweat coming out of my body right now. I would be a whole lot more comfortable without clothes, and my body would be able to breathe a whole lot better. When you do have to wear clothes and stuff for some reason, then wear natural fiber clothes. Like everything that I have on right now is either made of leather or cotton. And so it breathes. Silk is good, flannel is good, linen is good, things of that nature. Any natural thing. If you use things like nylon or or polyester or things of that nature, things that are artificial, what you're actually doing is, instead of breathing good air in, they give off formaldehyde for about 4 years after they're manufactured, and you're sucking that formaldehyde into your body, which isn't good. So, when possible, don't wear anything. When it isn't, then wear some natural fiber. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and do the second set, and we'll talk about a couple of other things in between it and the third set. Okay, second set done. The process that you may have noticed from time to time, and I'll get to where I'm back and I'm like sniffing in a little bit of extra air, that's known as fire breathing. And so you get to where you're at the top of your breathing process, and maybe you find that you have a second or two left to go, and so you just snort in a little bit more air, and what that does is it compresses the amount of air in your lungs, and it produces a major amount of heat in your body. For that reason, Cobra breathing is actually also a form of what is known as tumo. And tumo is the generation of inner fire. Tumo in breath work is also what allows people to go, say, to 14 or 18,000 feet up in the Himalayas and sit naked in a cave and meditate all the time, and both be able to breathe and also not freeze to death. So, it's a good thing. It also helps to burn up a lot of the bad air and stuff that's in your lungs and help get it out. So, wanted to mention that also. So, also, excuse me. In the process of doing this, it cleans out a lot of mucus and stuff in your system and helps get that to move. And, hence the reason for drinking, like I mentioned earlier. But another part of the process that can be a problem is if you don't keep a count in some way. Like when I'm sitting here, I'm pressing my fingers here and stuff and keeping a count, because if I don't, then sometimes all this extra energy can be a little bit euphoric, and it can cause you to kind of trance out a little bit. And so you might find yourself doing 8 or 9 or 10 breaths in a set. And again, if you're starting out, you really don't want to do that. You don't want to get hurt in the process. So we'll go ahead and do the third set. And as soon as I get through with the third set, I'm going to do the 4 cleansing breaths. Okay. So that completes the process. And do this once per day, and you will see a major change take place in your life. Usually within about 6 weeks. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer. Some people who are in really poor physical condition, if they'll do this as much as they can, even if they have to kind of spread it out through the day, they will see a major change in a hurry. We have a gentleman who's taking the Kalinaga Shamanic Power courses right now and stuff, and he was really having some issues around the breath work and stuff, and when he finally got to where he could just do even just you know, a couple of steps, you know, then he found that his brain worked a whole lot better. He had a lot better energy, you know. It was a really good thing for him. And this man is no stranger to physical work. He's a Jeet Kune Do instructor, so, you know, he's black belt. So he's had some experience with a lot of this stuff, but he'd gotten in a situation where it was kind of messing with, you know, his energy was off and stuff, and he was having a hard time breathing, had difficulty breathing. And breath work has made the difference for him. It'll do the same thing for you. If you're having problems, you know, it's like, let's say you have cancer. Cancer is an anaerobic process. It's a plant cell that's out of control, living in your body, continuing to grow and stuff, and causing damage. And plant cells don't tolerate oxygen well. Well, you do this and you fill your blood full of oxygen, and the cancer starts to shrivel up and die. So, you know, there's a health benefit for you right there. But any problem that you have, if you get in more oxygen, then that is one of the single best cures for any disease process that there is. So, and also, that's also what fills you full of life, and that's what makes your body last longer and helps to rejuvenate you, plus the movement of the Kundalini energy. And so I encourage you to do this process, give it a try, see how it works for you. If you have any questions, if you're an apprentice of mine or you've contacted me before, send me an email. You know, I'll answer it for you. If you don't, fill out the page on our website at www.naturedshaman.net. It says contact us. Just click on that, fill out the form, give me your question and stuff. I'll send you an answer back. So anyway, that's the end of this process for right now, and we'll get this taken care of, and we'll get another video out to you pretty soon.